Hey everybody, it's Red Taylor with the Red Hot Read Show, and have I got a guest for you today? Have you ever wondered what is it like to be in television? Well, today you're going to get the 411 on a guy who has been in the industry for over 30 years. He's a believer in Christ, a husband, a father, and an eight-time Emmy Award winner for his elite level execution of graphic art, creative design at Turner Sports and Tyler Perry Studios for the last 30 years. With roots in the West Coast, he grew up in California in the San Francisco Bay Area. After that, he relocated to New Orleans, Louisiana at age 18. Talk about experiencing a complete culture shock. He was a three-sport star in high school. He earned a scholarship to play basketball at Ohio State University. Go Buckeyes. And he got this talent almost honestly, being the adopted son of former Ohio State Buckeye basketball player and NBA Hall of Famer, United States of American Olympian gold medal winner Jerry Lucas. Not only was growing up the son of an NBA legend full of advantages and great experiences, but he says that Jerry and his father was an amazing dad and had a huge role in him actually going into television instead of actually chasing his original dream of going into the medical field. His dad was starting a TV show, a children's TV show. He's been married to the same woman, listen to this, Rhonda, for 33 years, an extraordinary woman who is the mother of their three children. And together they've been on this incredible journey of life and chasing the American dream, maintaining a happy family as best as possible while actively serving in local ministry and serving families from all walks of life for over 2 decades. He's seen and felt what it means to love this country, love the people in it, for all that it stands for, and the opportunities available for those who are willing to work hard and never give up. Will you welcome my friend, Matt Lucas?
That's so kind of you, Red. It's great to be here. It really is. It's great to be here. Seen several of your podcasts. I love your passion. It comes across so that you're just real. You're real and you're speaking the truth. And so I know you probably, I think the way this even happened was me commenting on stuff like, don't stop, man, keep it coming. I'm loving this, so.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thanks so much, because I am, just starting in this journey, and, I've read and I've watched so many people from afar, and I've heard the term, I've learned the term imposter syndrome, and I think that resonates to me so much, because what I'm doing here is something that I don't really feel like I'm worthy to do, but I'm telling you, it's a calling. It wasn't easy for me to do it. It's not something that I absolutely just wanted to be a podcast guy and wanted to get out there in front. I've been fortunate to be successful behind a wall of anonymity for the last 20-something years now, and putting yourself out there and kind of reinventing yourself at my age is definitely a calling. And like you said, man, you gave me a post of support, which I've gotten from so many people. What a blessing that is, because it helps. I mean, you're like, man, maybe you are making an impact. Maybe this does help some other people. Not that it needed to help you, but it's like some guys that I respect.
It did. I think people are hungry for the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we gravitate to.
Yeah.
And when you start hearing the truth, you can hear it.
Yeah.
It's not hard. It's becoming, I think, easier and easier to discern the lies.
Mm.
And so when somebody is speaking the truth, it like your ears kind of start, the hair on your ears kind of stands up a little bit, and you kind of go, hey, what this guy's saying is true, and it resonates with me. And I think your passion too. It's just like, it's so genuine, and that comes across in what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. it's funny that we've known each other probably for the last 20 years or so, and when you shot that comment over, and I immediately I said, brother, give me your number. I want to talk to you about this. I want to have you on my show because I've watched your family from afar. I've admired your family, and you being the leader, the focal point of that family. I have so much respect for you because we've lived in a small community here in Cobb County, Paulding County, Georgia, and it's actually grown over the last 20 years to be a really big community. And the Lucas name stands at the top of some of the most high character, high integrity people in that community. That if you ever needed anything, you can call on Matt and Rhonda. You and I never actually really had a full conversation before. Now, before that day when you shot me your number and I called you, and immediately, for me anyway, I felt a connection to you.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I felt the connection. I met you a long, long time ago at a Christmas party at Russell Gold's.
Oh,
and this is like probably close to 20
years ago.
Yeah. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And and you were involved in some sports and stuff like that, and so there was a connection there because I asked a bunch of questions.
Yep.
And
I remember that.
And
coaching my kid, coaching Grayson. Yeah.
And then we kind of made maybe a little more connection when Grayson was playing in high school, and one of my buddies worked for FCA, and so I was trying to help out and support the kids, and they wasn't hard because they were headed for the state championship.
Right.
And I got a chance to see Grayson play, especially those last few games, and then obviously the big game at Truist where he knocked one out of the park. So it was like there was a little connection made then.
Right.
And then when I saw you, started seeing the podcast, stuff started showing up on my feed. I'm like, oh my God, it's Red. And I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like this, I'm loving this. I'm loving what he's talking about. And so, I was like, I think because, and maybe I don't want to jump ahead, but when Caleb passed away,
yeah,
I felt like there were so many things that I didn't tell him.
Mm.
And so when something comes to my mind about somebody, I'm like, and maybe sometimes to a fault, but I want to, it's like, you know what, Red, what you're doing is great.
Wow.
And I'm not going to let this moment slip by without you knowing that, man, I love it. I support you.
Wow. Brother, I want you to know that's powerful. Okay. That is impactful. And for everybody who's listening to this right now, what I want you to understand is this is a grown man, a successful man, a man of God, a family man who has been through the most devastating experience that a parent could ever go through, or all of our worst nightmare. And that is losing a child. We were certainly going to talk about this, but God has a way of putting his hand on these things and steering them in the direction that he wants us to go. So that's what we're going to lead with today. And Caleb was taken far too soon, and he was taken from the earth on just a mistake. He made a mistake, and we all make mistakes. All of us do. And we're going to make more mistakes, but this one was the fatal one for Caleb. Matt, tell us about that story.
Yeah, Caleb was full of life. He was the kid, in the household. The other two kids were really quiet because he took up so much space as far as like his personality. He was a writer, a singer, played any instrument you put in his hands, he could play. He was a little bit of a comedian.
Big smile.
Yeah, and he was almost too much a lot of times. And so he was going to school, going to college. He had moved back into this area, was going to KSU, and he had gotten a tattoo redone. He had gotten a tattoo, and we had talked that night. He was actually going to start working at Turner. I talked to him on a Tuesday. He was going to start working at Turner with the editors there on Thursday. And they had all known him since he was a little kid,
Right.
And so they were super excited about working with Caleb. And so we had talked that night. He said, Dad, he really didn't tell me how painful it was. Because I would have been like, hey, take 3 or 4 Tylenol and just go to bed, you know. But we got off the phone that night about 11 o'clock. He called somebody up and asked them if they could give him some pain medicine, you know, and I know you've done this. I've done this a million times where you tell your kids, don't take anything from anybody.
Yep.
That's not from a prescribed doctor. You just have no idea. But Caleb was so trustworthy. He just trusted.
Yeah.
Caleb had a million friends.
Yeah.
You know, and so, this guy gave him what was supposed to be Oxycontin. It was packaged as Oxycontin. The box looked like Oxycontin. The tablets were pressed, you know, said Oxycontin, but it was pure fentanyl. So he didn't have a chance. He literally didn't have a chance. And you know, Rhonda was, I mean, the crazy thing is he probably passed away at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning that night, but we never even, around 3 o'clock the next day, Rhonda noticed she hadn't gotten a phone call from him. Right. And so she called, his roommate answered the phone, and she's like, hey, do you mind waking up Caleb just because I haven't talked to him? And when he came out of the room screaming, he's not breathing. And she's like, call 911. No. And then it just starts from there. It's the worst nightmare. You know, I left work. I got there quicker because I worked at Turner, so he was right off of 285 in this apartment complex there. And so Rhonda's stuck in traffic for hours.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to get there. And it was awful. The worst night is the first night. The moans, the screams, they're like nothing you've ever heard before. You know, and I remember I went to sleep that night and I forgot to take my clothes and my shoes off. I got in bed with my shoes on and all my clothes and went to bed. And the next morning, you know, because at this point, man, you so need the grace of God to just be all over you, know, because you're in shock. You really are. You're in shock. You're I don't even know how you're really functioning. Mm-hmm. And some kid knocks on the door at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I have no idea who he is. And, you know, social media, man, as soon as it happened, I mean, before Rhonda could even get to where Caleb was, it was already all over Facebook and everywhere that Caleb had passed away. You know?
Way. Yeah.
And so this kid shows up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he's like, Mr. Lucas, I'm so sorry, you know, that Caleb passed away, but I wanted to tell you that, you know, when I used to get on the bus, people used to pick on me, and he defended me every day.
Oh, my God.
The only problem with this is nobody knows who this kid is. I mean, I've had opportunities to get up and speak and say,
to this day,
yeah, nobody knows who he is.
To this day,
nobody knows who he is.
Okay, so yeah, this is unreal because you just went from complete devastation to the light of God showing up almost.
Oh, yeah.
Is what I know and I know that's what you and Rhonda know it. Yeah, an angel showed up. Okay, to say that his job was well done. He did what you would have wanted, what his mama would have wanted him to do, and that's to protect the weak. Okay, and what did that do? I mean,
we didn't at that time. We really didn't know.
You didn't know.
We think it's all true.
Yeah.
It was, you know, and so I've never seen this kid before. And Caleb brought all his friends by. He brought everybody. I mean, he was the type of guy that was like his friend. He had the jocks, the nerds, the potheads. I mean, the scientists. I mean, they were all his friends.
Well, they all lived in the community. Yeah. Everybody lived. We lived in a big community that 2,700 houses. So they were kids everywhere the whole time. So yeah, and he had a big smile. So he had friends, all of them.
I mean, he just had an uncanny way of bringing people together that should never have been together.
Yeah.
And even his friends said that when we've had some dinners together, like, you know, they're like, there's no way I should be your friend because have nothing in common.
Mm-hmm.
And what they had in common was Caleb. So
Mm.
when we went to do this was another miracle. When we went to do the wake, where people are going to get to view his body and stuff like that. Rhonda's like, I can't, because those things last for a couple hours. And she was like, I can't do this. I'm like, listen, just for the family's sake, just us, because the family goes in first and you get a chance to just be with him, with just the family. And I told her, I said, you can just go home after this, And when we opened up the doors, the whole, foyer was crammed full of people, and the line went around the building like twice.
What?
And so it was like this overwhelming, like, love from people. It was amazing. And the other thing too is like the Bentwater community was ridiculous as far as like taking us in, holding us. I remember I was doing CrossFit at the time, and Greg Schramm saw me because I went to CrossFit, I think like 2 days later, trying to bring some normalcy in my life.
Sure.
And he ran over there and just grabbed me and wouldn't let go. Phil wrote me a letter. I mean, it was so unexpected. He wrote me this letter about how sorry he was, and it was just like, here's this tough guy, this quarterback, in college. I played basketball with him all the time. He was a very tough guy, and here he's writing this,
pouring his heart out. Yeah. Just being a human being, being a man, a friend, a giver.
So people were just, it was unbelievable. Tim Parker, Stacy Parker showed up every morning for, I don't know how many weeks. She showed up at our door every morning, like at 8 o'clock, opening the door. She'd open up our house and make coffee. And she kind of, she handled everybody.
Right.
Because we were just, we were a mess.
Yeah. I can imagine. So, it's amazing what happens when tragedy strikes like that, because through the devastation, through the mess, through the loss, the grief of it, so many times you see, a light show up. You see community come up. You see God show out, and people that are close to you and some that aren't even close to you, they just, collectively put their arm around you and your family and hold you up. And that's what happened then, is what it sounds like to me.
Oh, they just did. People were just, so gracious, and whether it was food or just hugging us and loving us. And then, at some point, Ben Houston, who's a great friend of mine, him and Joe Fitzpatrick decided they were going to start a golf tournament to raise money. And, one of the things that Rhonda said at the funeral was, don't let my son die in vain. And for some reason that just hit Ben.
Wow.
Like I'm not, like he heard it differently than anybody else did.
Wow.
And so, it was, that was a crazy thing too. The day we had the funeral, my brother-in-law, his dad had a church. And so we had the funeral there, and it held about, 800 or 900 people. It was packed.
Yeah.
It was packed, and, had family sing, and my brother spoke, and my cousin John from Honduras spoke, and they were both. And then at the end, we had an altar call, and all these kids started coming down, and so funny. When I went back to work, people were like, "So is that what church is like?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of what it's supposed to be like," and it was. So God just kept showing up everywhere. Every time we turned a corner, he would show up. Not that it wasn't difficult. Those first year and a half, man, I would get in the shower every morning. I'd just bawl my eyes out. I would do it in there because that way nobody could hear me.
Sure.
Kids couldn't hear me. Rhonda couldn't hear me. And to be honest with you, those were the times that, my relationship with the Lord became so deep. because I was so dependent on him.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Couldn't do it alone.
I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
You know, and every morning he'd show up, and once you've experienced that with him, you'll never turn back.
Yeah.
You just won't. You'll never be the same. I've never been the same because of it. You know, I told somebody one time, I said, I got out of the shower, I felt like I was glowing because I'd been in his presence it was that strong.
Wow.
And people were like, oh, come on, man. I'm just like, no, I'm telling you. I would get in that water and just was like, I was holding myself up, you know, and just trying to pray, you know, and he would just show up every morning, you know, and it was, you know, it's not that I wasn't a Christian before that,
Mm-hmm.
but my walk was not like it is after that.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like that, you know, my mother was murdered and taken from us, as you know, and so many people that we know, when they lose someone that they love so tragically, it marks time, you know, and, you know, sometimes it marks time for good and sometimes it marks time for bad. And sometimes there's both in there. And certainly that's what it sounds like with you guys, because, you know, in your most broken state, when you really couldn't even hold yourself up, you probably didn't even have the clear thoughts enough to actually mutter a prayer. You know,
I don't know. It was
you
nothing
know,
but
you know what I'm
groan.
saying? It's just pain coming out of you that you don't even understand it, and then you get out of that experience, and you can describe yourself as glowing in the spirit. So, you know, that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, I've had several, you know, these kind of experiences like this, you know, and I mean, believe me, I'm very grateful for all of them,
Yeah.
you know. So Caleb's Cup got started. We did a golf tournament. We were raising money to, basically, we wanted to give scholarships to kids that were in high school, that were graduating, that were in the arts, because that's what Caleb was in. He loved music. You know, he was studying to be an English major, and he was incredibly furious about, I don't want to become an English teacher, Dad. I'm like, you'll never be an English teacher. Maybe when you're 70 years old and you want to go back. I said, you're going to write comedy, you're going to write plays, you write TV shows, you're going to write music. And that's your gift.
Yeah.
Like, he would write papers. You know, he transferred from one school to the next. And a lot of times, you know, Rhonda would be the one who would write papers for the kids because she's a writer. And so he's reading me this thing because the president of the college would not let him have certain credits transfer. And I mean, so he's reading this thing. I'm like, man, this is really good.
Yeah.
When did your mom write this? He's like, Mom didn't write it, I did. At that moment, I was like, oh, wow.
Light bulb.
Yeah. And then come to find out, he's been writing papers for other people for money. And you know.
Okay. So there we go. Talent revealed itself.
Yeah. And so, you know, so that's why we did it. We did it. We wanted to give these kids that never get anything in the arts, play instruments, music, dance. And yeah, it was the first year we raised a bunch of money, and we gave every penny away. Kids would write in. We would ask them to write some sort of a paragraph or something about why they wanted Caleb's Cup, be sponsored by Caleb's Cup. And I mean, Ron and I just sat at the table and bawled.
Oh, I bet.
These kids were like, you just couldn't, I mean, they were so heartfelt and like thought out. Because I thought at my age, you know, when I was a senior, if I had to write something like that, it'd been a couple sentences, and they would have been like, "Nah, not you."
Surface level, get it in, get it out. Let's get on with it. Yeah,
and theirs were very heartfelt, and so, you know, I wanted to give a few scholarships away, and Ron was like, "No, we'll just drain the bank account. Let's make sure everybody gets something." You know.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, let's do it. You know, it was Rhonda and Ben's wife, Casey.
Okay.
There are other people involved, but they're the two women whose heart is really there. And so
cool.
The girls were like, this is what we're going to do. Let's do it. And so that's what we did. That summer, we did like a concert, food, and a speaker. We wanted to somehow make an impact on the young people in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And it was free, which is a great thing, but a horrible thing because you have no idea how many people are going to show up.
Right.
So Cedar Crest, Pastor Van was nice enough. It's so funny. I met with him at the Bentwater Golf Club, the little dining room they have there, and I sit down with him. This is my first time really kind of meeting him. Mm-hmm. He had just come to this area to become a pastor at Cedar Crest, and I had this whole spiel to give to him, about why we would like to have this event at Cedar Crest, at the church there. And he sat down, we shook hands, and he goes, Matt, whatever you need, it's all yours, whatever you need. And I was like, hey, wait, can I not? He's like, no, there's no reason to talk.
I've got it all here. I've worked on it.
And he just like, they were so gracious, all of them over there. And so, yeah, we have the event, and we have food trucks there. We have T-shirts that have been printed up. We've gone to all the high schools and invited the kids to come. We asked, we asked a lot of the athletes to come, so we felt like if a lot of the athletes would come, a lot of the other kids would come.
Right.
And it starts at 7, and it's about 5 minutes before 7. There's nobody there.
Oh.
So it's me, Micah, and his buddies. And I looked at Micah, I said, well, it looks like you and I are going to be eating a lot of hot dogs and ice cream.
I hope you're hungry, buddy.
Yeah. And so this was another one of those God moments where this girl comes up to me. I have no idea who she is. And I don't even know why she came up to me. She goes, Mr. Lucas, don't worry. She goes, everybody knows, and they're all coming.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And after she said that, within the next 10 or 15 minutes, man, the cars started pouring in.
Really?
And one of the kids who was a football, I had asked him, he was a quarterback at that time, I'd asked him to come. And I was like, he's a quarterback, he's busy, he doesn't have time for me or this stuff. And I was like, he showed up, I gave him a big hug, and I was like, I can't believe you're here. It's like, I never would have missed it. And so it was a great night.
Yeah.
And that same kid went home that night and told his mom, woke his mom up at midnight and said, Mom, I just want to tell you something. I'll never be the same.
Wow.
So it's like turning tragedy, Rhonda calls it turning purpose into pain. I mean, turn your pain into purpose.
Pain into purpose.
Yeah. And it's just, that's kind of what we've done. You can tell it's taken me, I think it'll be 8 years that we're coming up on. Mm. It's 7 or 8 years. I'm terrible with numbers, but that's why I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
But even a year ago, for me to sit here and talk to you, I couldn't have, because I would have just laid on this table and just wept. Mm. Mm. And it's still very hard for me to talk about certain things without like losing it.
Yeah, brother, I just want you to know that from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate what you're doing. This takes so much courage and so much willingness to give to others, to take your pain and the pain of the devastation that you guys and your family have experienced, and turn it truly into purpose, because we're going to get this message out to the world. People need to hear about this. People need to be made more aware of the devastation that fentanyl is occurring and is causing out there in our country, into regular families' lives. Matt and Rhonda Lucas are good people. They're good family. Caleb Lucas was going to go, and he was going to become another family man. And I'm sure that you guys have sat and y'all played his life trajectory over and over again. And it just is so painful, I'm sure. And I can't, and I say that, bro, I don't know what you're going through, man. I just can empathize with you, from somebody who has lost someone else tragically in that, because you just wonder why you didn't get to say, you didn't get to do, what if, and all those things. But we don't get to make that choice. It's not up to us. And, what, first off, I want to let everybody know, what is the name of the event that they can donate to that is helping other children in the community?
Yeah, it's called Caleb's Cup.
Caleb's Cup.
Just calebscup.com.
Yeah,
And
okay.
you can go to that site. And the other things we do is at Christmas time we help, because a lot of kids aren't going to get gifts.
Yeah.
And we work with the high schools, local high schools, and their counselors, and they give us a list of names, and the kids write a little Christmas list. Now, when we first got the list, I thought, man, are we going to be able to afford what they want? I thought it was going to be PlayStations, iPhones, and
right.
I mean, it was like, can I get paper, some pens? Can I get a lamp so I can read at night? I mean,
dude.
And this is our own community.
Yeah.
And
you wouldn't think it.
No, you wouldn't. But the wonderful thing is Rhonda would post something like, "Hey, we're doing this right now," and to be honest, the mothers, something about moms, man. When they see the flag go up, that somebody needs help, man, they just come running.
Absolutely.
And they have just been. There was a girl that because people will reach out to Rhonda, because Rhonda's been so transparent during this whole thing. She never tried to hide what happened to Caleb. Never tried to hide anything. We've been very transparent. She's been more than transparent. So people, I think, felt very comfortable in DMing her. And there was a time where a couple of girls weren't going to have dresses for prom. And Rhonda just put a little message out. I'm telling you, within seconds, that phone was like, bing, 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 bing. I thought she was in Vegas over there, playing some game.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, and these ladies had already taken pictures saying, hey, this is, they wear this size. This is what the dress looks like. Do you think they'd like it? My daughter and I would love to give this to them. And it was like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is literally awesome, awe-inspiring.
Sometimes it's like, can you be the channel for somebody else to use their gift? And for some people, someone like yourself, you have a gift to make. Definitely have a gift of doing this, but you have a gift of making money. There are people that it just comes naturally. That entrepreneurial spirit just comes naturally. They're natural leaders, and it's like these women. It's like sometimes I felt like that gift was being held back because somebody else hadn't opened the door to allow them to do this. And it's amazing. Every time we ask for help, people I'm like, Ron, are you sure? She goes, let's do it. I know they'll help.
Yeah. They show up.
Yeah.
People show up. God shows up.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah,
you.
no, that's so impactful. So I want everybody to go to calebscup.com and do some research and give and donate there, and let's help this cause, and let's help these other people, all these kids that are in need. Let's talk about the problem, and let's see if we, because we have a real problem of fentanyl in America right now. It seems to me that the open border policy of the Biden regime is allowing an absolute flood, a typhoon of fentanyl to flood our communities, to flood our country through the cartels that are running this drug up here and killing so many of our children and really adults. Like you said earlier, you can't take any drugs from anybody, not an Advil, not an ibuprofen, not a Tylenol, not a sinus medication, not an allergy pill. If you're not getting it from the pharmacy, from a packaged, pharmaceutical dispenser, then there's nothing safe right now. I mean, I've got a 22-year-old daughter, a 21-year-old son, a 20-year-old son, a 19-year-old daughter, and they're all 13-year-old daughter upcoming. Okay, so. And we all know these people within our community, and we know we're scared to death they're at risk, okay? What can we do? What can we do about this? How bad is the problem? And Matt, I know you guys have talked about solutions. What can we do?
I mean, the hard part is communicating with young people, first of all, and letting them know their value. They don't even know their value. They don't know that the God of this universe breathed life into them.
Yes.
And he has a purpose and a plan for them. They can't see it right now.
Yeah.
So trying to be a channel of encouragement and help, kind of like waking them up to the reality of who they are.
Yes.
And I think, there's I think that's the most important thing, because the fact is like the most important thing is Jesus. Yep. He is the antidote. He's the only thing that's going to fix any of it. And having that relationship, having the Holy Spirit dwell within you, because it was just a moment of weakness for Caleb. And that's all it takes. And then not only does your life change, but all the people that knew you changes. I mean, Caleb still has friends that are really struggling with his death.
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing, and the hard part is like these young people, you think you're invincible. And believe me, Caleb was definitely one of those people that thought he was invincible. He did not, listen, the last thing he wanted, he was afraid of death. He did not want to die. He didn't like pain. He just wanted to have fun. And the fact is like,
how old was he?
He was 23.
23. Prime of his life, having the best time, invincible, everything's ahead of him. I mean, he's doing his thing. And how many of you are in this stage of your life? How many of you are between that, 16 to 24, 25 year age of your life, where you're rocking and rolling? The most important thing is your friends, what you're doing now, what you're doing this weekend, what you're doing next week, who you're doing it with. And you're not really thinking about, man, what if this can hurt me? What if this causes a problem that stays with me for the rest of my life? What if this creates some type of devastating situation that I'm going to have to deal with, that the people who love me are going to have to deal with for a very, very long time? And like Matt said, if you can just see your value, if you can just understand that you are created magnificently in the image of the highest there is, in the King of all kings, in the image of the Alpha and the Omega, okay? And that he breathed you into life, and that he has you in the palm of his hands, okay? And that even though we carry so much guilt, we do so many things that we're ashamed of, that we wish that we could have taken back. And I'm telling you right now, I'm preaching to me, okay? Because I am the least, I'm the biggest screw up there is. But I do know that God covers me in grace. And what did you tell me earlier? I didn't earn it. I didn't do one thing. I can't earn it, okay? I can't say enough Hail Marys. I can't help enough people. I can't pay enough money, okay? I can't buy enough pens and lamps and jackets and toys and diapers and baby food and give it all away to deserve any of it. And neither can you. It's free.
It's so true.
It's free.
I think that's the hard part for people. But I think, listen, am I furious at what the Biden administration, the government's doing? These people up in Washington that are doing nothing except sitting on their hands, nothing. And to be honest with you, even the ones that are saying stuff, are they doing anything? Where I work in television, if you don't perform. And if everything is results oriented. I'm only as good as the last thing I created.
That's kind of the way it's always been, isn't it? I mean,
for them, it's not. I mean,
you're supposed to get paid to perform, and if you perform poorly, then you usually don't have a job.
Yeah. Well, these guys up there seem to have jobs. Men and women have jobs, and I don't know. I've read. I have a buddy named Robbie Finley, who's been a good mentor to me. Him, Scott Arverson, Blake Blake McCrary, guys that I trust, and Robbie challenged me in the last couple of years to begin to read Proverbs and Psalms. Man, I've read some pretty good prayers from David, praying down on the wicked. I might start taking him up on some of these, because I just feel like they don't care about our kids. They don't care about the American family. They're trying to destroy, they're trying to destroy marriages. I mean, right now, I came from a single home, I live with my mom. My mom was a nurse. She worked 2 jobs to so we could afford to live in a house. Yeah. And back then she had a beeper. She was on call. She never was not working, right. And most of the time she was on the couch asleep. Right. Because she was so tired. So I don't know how people are like a single mom. How's a single mom making it right now? Tough. How's a single dad making it right now? I don't know about you. When I go to the grocery, I used to love to go to the grocery store, walk the aisles, see some of the new stuff.
Fun.
Yeah. Time to get away from the office for a little while, probably see some people in the community, say hi to people and talk a little bit. And now it's like you walk out of there with one bag of nothing and it's $100. And you're like, and so, I don't know how people are making it right now under this regime, whatever you want to call it,
Joe Biden's America. Well, and I'll tell you how they're making it, because, when you look at the statistics, and I'm the kind of nerd that kind of studies this kind of stuff, what we see is that, inflation is soaring right now, and they don't have a solution. The Fed was hoping to be able to curtail this thing and start cutting rates. Back in December, they were pricing in 3 rate cuts at the Fed, and that's nowhere to be seen. I think they still may cut them in about August, September, to try to help Biden in the election, because the economy's getting so bad. Don't be surprised. But what we're seeing right now, just like you said, going to the grocery store is painful. Okay, groceries, the real inflation, not the one that they tell you on the news, but real inflation at the grocery store is up 28% right now. Okay, go to the gas station. What are you paying extra at the gas pump? Well, when President Trump left office back in January of 2021, the average price of a gallon of gasoline was $2.17. What is it today? Okay. Yeah. I think I paid $4.09. Your energy bill at home. What about your insurance, your auto insurance? What about your health insurance? And that's one thing that I'm really passionate about. We've been doing health insurance here, and, I want everyone to know that it is our passion here to help people save money. You can't go to your boss and get an extra $500 a month out of your paycheck. You can't go and, tell your boss that, hey, I got to go get groceries. I need to pay my electric bill. I need to pay my auto insurance. My kid needs new shoes to go to school, or my daughter needs a prom dress, or, my little one needs a lamp and some new pens or anything like that, and get an extra $400 a month out of your paycheck. But for people who are hurting out there, and for they want to look into their budget, we can save them money on their health insurance. We do it all the time, $400, $500, $700 a month, and we give them good health insurance. And if we can't help them, we tell them to stay right where you are. You're doing good, okay?
Which is amazing, because I feel like that everybody else has just been left behind when it comes to health insurance.
Yeah, they have, because nobody understands it. And it's a crisis.
Yeah, like I work for a big company, and when I heard you talking about, like, hey, let's see if we can save you money, I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to give them a shot, because Turner used to have, back in the day, man, it was like, the insurance was incredible.
Great. Fantastic.
And now it's almost like, because Rhonda used to work in the insurance business, she calls it, oh man, I can't think of the term. It's basically what you would buy if the worst case scenario, you're not buying just catastrophic.
Yes.
She says it's basically catastrophic insurance is what we have now.
Yep. And your rates have gone up over the years, and I see this so much. You talk to any corporation, any business in America, any church in America, most families in America, okay, their number 2 expense, okay, businesses behind their payrolls, churches behind their payroll, families behind their mortgage. Nowadays, it's actually the car payment, because the average car payment in America is right at $790 a month. But the number two payment in everybody's budget is health insurance. Okay. Why? Well, it's because that's all we know. We go to our job and they offer us plan A, B, C, and for the employer, for the employee, it's really cheap, or no cost at all. But then we add the spouse and children, the prices go sky high. Well, you just take whichever one you feel like, A, B, or C. You don't really know. Most people don't really know which one they're getting. Plug it in there and go on with it. And you look up and you're paying $1,000 a month or $1,200 a month, and you guys are relatively healthy. We take folks like that, and I'm plugging my company, but I'm passionate about it, guys. And we say, hey, listen, you stay on your plan at work, and we'll move the rest of the family over to one of our plans and save you $500, $600 a month. Okay, that's real money. Okay, $300 a month could help the average American family not go into bankruptcy, okay? Which, by the way, for the last 70 years, the number one cause of personal bankruptcy in America is unpaid medical bills. So we can help to solve those problems as well. But let's get back to the big problem that we're talking about here, and that's really the overall economy, what's going on in Washington, D.C., how they're flooding things into our country right now. And fentanyl is just one of those things that's coming in that's really creating destruction to America. It's almost like we're being infiltrated from within. And, nobody's out there declaring war on us. Nobody's dropping bombs on America, are they? Nobody's flying their planes over dropping bombs. And we don't have, big, what are they, destroyer ships on the coastline ready to shoot missiles at us? There aren't submarines out there shooting missiles at us. But it seems like the country's falling apart, right? So, I think it's something that we have to become aware of. Normal folks, people in the community, like yourself, like me, like you guys who are listening, we have to become more aware of it. Look, I don't care if you take my point of view. You don't have to take it. I promise you I'm not right as much as I'm probably wrong as much as I am right, okay? But seek knowledge, seek the truth. Go out there and educate yourself and find out, why is this happening to me? And if you're able to do that, then you put yourself in a situation where maybe you're not just a victim on everything that's going on, and that you become a force multiplier. You have education, you have knowledge, and you can go talk to your neighbor about it. You can tell your sister at Thanksgiving about it, and you can have a conversation. And we don't have to argue, and we don't have to fight, and we don't have to resort to violence like what's going on in New York City right now. It looks like Hamas and the Palestinians, and it seems like they have taken over the city of New York, and Columbia University, once a great university that put out, future scholars and future CEOs and future leaders in our country. And I saw the police taking a knee to the Hamas protesters.
I mean, this is another sad thing too, is like, we have lost people that will never know who was the next Albert Einstein, the next Tesla. He could be sitting in L.A. in a homeless tent because he got addicted to drugs. Yeah, because he got addicted to, some people are able to take fentanyl and they don't die instantly. Most of them do, but some people. But it's like, what? How sad is that we are losing? Because those people change everything. They change everything. They change everything. They make better lives for people. Albert Einstein, a Tesla, people that whose minds their minds are so gifted, that they change everything. And the sad part is like, our government must not have any value in the human life by letting that stuff just pour in, when they could stop it. If you want to stop something, you can stop it.
Oh, yeah.
But they don't want to stop it. I mean, the other thing, this would be another, people might get upset about this, but it's like, we have cousins that are missionaries in Honduras, okay? They've been there for over 30 years, and my aunt used to tell us, and this is even probably 10 or 15 years before the border even got crazy like it is now. Yeah. She goes, we don't send our best to the States. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, we put prisoners and sick people on buses, and that's who we send to the States.
She said this from Honduras.
Honduras,
Yeah. And we all know.
People, but most people are like thinking that, listen, are there people, I mean, I grew up in California, so are there people that come to the States that are looking for a better life? Most definitely. Because when you go to a country like Honduras and some of the other third world countries, basically in Central America or even South America and some of the other places, it's rough.
Yeah.
There is no middle class. It's the very, very wealthy and the beyond dirt poor.
Is that what they're trying to do to us now?
It seems like they are trying to squeeze out
that class system, squeeze out the middle class. And brother, look, man, I get it. I'm all for legal immigration. Okay, we are supposed to be a country of laws and of order. And historically, our ancestors, our forefathers, came through Ellis Island. Okay, they came through a point of entry using a system to gain legal citizenship. And unfortunately, it is not a part of the law. The laws are in place right now. We don't, Biden, Mayorkas, those guys, Congress doesn't have to do a thing. Okay. All they have to do is enforce the laws that are in place. But they don't want that to happen simply because all of the new, what do you call it, 10 million, 12 million, 15 million illegals that have flooded through since February of 21. I mean, who really knows? We don't know. And how many of them are, soldier, fighting age men?
There's no kids coming across the last couple of years. It's all young men.
Right, yeah. And probably from places like, you said, Honduras, maybe Nicaragua, the
Iranians,
prisons,
Pakistanians. I mean, they're coming from all over the country now. It's
places that they say death to America, Somalia. Yeah. And so...
And this is kind of the other funny thing is, like, if you watch some of the footage, I grew up in, like I said, in California. A lot of the summers I played baseball on an all-star team for every city in California has a sister city in Mexico. And so ours was Fremont was Puerto Penasco.
Okay.
And so, listen, it's when you go across that border, from Mexico it's a long ways of nothing but desert and nothing, and people are coming across the border and they're like, I'm like, why aren't they dirty? Why, they should look like, you should look beat up.
New shoes, backpacks, fresh backpacks, nice clothes. But what we've seen, I don't know if you've ever, seen any Ben Berquam stuff. This guy's down there on the trail on the Gap. Man, what they're doing to those children.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Trafficking.
Well, they're trafficking the children. There's evidence down there of them, raping the children, little kids now. Okay. The assault and the abuse and the devastation and the violence that goes on with the cartels and the mules that are trafficking all of these migrants, because like you said, they're not showing up all tattered and worn, okay? Somebody's paying and supporting and promoting to get them here, and it wouldn't be allowed unless it's being, it wouldn't be possible unless it's being allowed from within, from inside, the U.S. government. And the reason is, I think, because they want to erase the middle class. They want to, all the blue collar workers out there, okay? Black, brown, blue-collar workers who are now being paid a higher minimum wage because of inflation and the left's push to increase minimum wage. They want to lower that minimum wage with sourced workers, helps corporations, big corporations, okay? And then they want to give them free access to health care, free access to guns, free access to driver's license to drive, and they want to give them access to vote. Well, who do you think they're going to vote for? They're going to vote for these woke and extreme ideological policies that are being pushed out of Joe Biden's America to rewrite our history.
I mean, there's so many ridiculous things that are going on. It's like, it really is like watching a movie. Like some people say, sit back, eat your popcorn and watch the movie.
Get your popcorn.
Yeah. Because, why would you put illegals in some of the nicest hotels in New York City.
They're staying in 5-star hotels in New York City and Chicago. And
my daughter used to model, so we used to have to stay in hotels. They're not cheap, and you want to get in and out of that city as quick as you can because you're going to drop tons of money.
Yeah.
And they're having, carte blanche. It's just so many things are being done that's ridiculous. And one of the things I want to say is like, men need to become men. And I'm talking at this point, I'm talking to my own self. Don't think that fentanyl won't come to your house.
Yes.
Because you don't know. Like, did I ever think my son would die from a drug overdose? Not in a million years. Not in a million years. But it did. Showed up right on my doorstep. Showed me that anything could happen.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think, especially in the last, maybe it's been longer, maybe 10 or 15 years, men really haven't been men like they used to be. And I think God's calling men to become men again and to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And listen, it's a much harder pill maybe to swallow now than it's ever been, because for the simple reason you're going to be ridiculed or canceled or whatever, for anything you say now. And it's like, but God needs men to stand up for the truth.
Right. You're right, brother. And listen, I receive what you're saying. I'm in 1,000% agreement with every syllable that just came out of your mouth, because doing this podcast and doing this show, I just want it to take on whichever direction that it's supposed to take. I'm passionate about politics. I am what I feel like a man's man. I believe I have, beliefs, and I have standards and things that I'm willing to stand on, but I've always done that in anonymity. Well, now, when you do that in front of a camera where whoever is out there that can see, then you put a target on your back. And in business, that's not always good when you take a side. So, there are relationships out there that may end up being, that we have to work on to maintain because of this. In fact, there's already been chatter about it. I am passionate about what we're doing here and what the purpose of this whole platform that God's going to give me to do, that people need to hear it. People do. You need to step up and be a man, okay? You have a child out there who's going down a wrong path, okay? And you know it in your heart, but you're so ashamed and you're so unattached from her or him that you can't pick up the phone and reach out to him and tell him, hey, I love you so much. You're so valuable to me. Can we just, come on, I want to take you to dinner. Let's sit down and let's put the phones down. I know you're going to hate it. Give me 30 minutes and let's just talk, okay? Tell me about your day. How are you? What'd you do today? Okay? What'd you eat for breakfast? How was lunch? That's it. And just start communicating and giving and loving on your children. They want it. Even if they're pushing you away, I promise you they do. They need it, okay? And we have to get over the shame and the guilt for not being the perfect that father or husband or friend that we have held ourselves to be, that we never were going to reach that level anyway, right? We weren't going to get there, okay? And it's okay, okay? Get over yourself, Red Taylor. Get over yourself. You're good enough. Your child needs you. Because we don't know when that danger is knocking on their door, and it's out there. It's coming.
We had a thing with Caleb. One thing I used to always say to Caleb sometimes, it was like, how hard is it to be good? It was like, it's not that hard, man.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to be good, And so we were having a heated discussion in Rhonda and I's room one night. And it was one of those yelling matches, and just exactly what you're talking about, where we were trying, nobody gives you a manual how to become a parent. You take whatever you learn from your parents, and then you take whatever you read or you learn in church, and you try to apply those things. But it's still on-the-job training.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's plenty of yelling going on, and I at this point, I think I'd even told Caleb I was about him and I were going to go down to the Marines. I was going to sign his butt up for the Marines tomorrow. It's going to be fine. You can't make me do this. I'm like,
watch
Dad,
and see. Watch me.
and all of a sudden, I made a comment. I said, you're not in this fight alone. Your mom and I are here with you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna fight with you to help. Because basically the whole conversation was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And when I said that we were in the fight with him, he broke down like a 5-year-old. And then I was like,
what just happened?
Wait. Yeah, what yeah, exactly. What just happened? He thought that he was by himself in this fight that whole time. And I imagine there's a lot of kids out there that think they're in it by themselves for the simple reason, as parents, we haven't done a very good job of expressing ourselves. And it depends where you grew up. Some people were amazing at it. It just, their parents were good or they were just given a gift.
Yeah.
But for most of us, it's
for the rest of us. What I've always felt like is being a parent is constantly, I constantly feel like I'm just screwing it up. I constantly feel like I'm messing it up, like I'm getting it wrong. And I think that, going back to what you just said, having that moment and him being able to break down, I think so many kids feel that way where they're all alone, or it's me against them, or it's me against the world. Because, let's be honest, kids are sneaky. Okay. And kids, and I don't know why, I was thinking about this the other day. Why is our life made up of parents telling kids, well, you're not allowed to do that. Don't do that. We're trying to save the kids from themselves, and kids wanting to go around and sneak to do everything that the parents told them not to do, when in reality, we know they're going to do it anyway. They're going to end up doing it anyway. So instead of being a guiding force that walks them through that process somehow, we end up kind of pushing them into it and away from us, right? I mean, I don't know where that came from, or if anybody agrees with that or disagrees with it. It's almost like a little dim light bulb in my little old brain that just popped up. But I actually was thinking about that the other day. But I think that so many kids, because they are on their own journey, we do give them these phones and we introduce them to a world that isn't real, that's full of porn, full of the devil and nastiness and crap at very early ages, and we don't monitor it. And so all that pushes all of this shame and this sneakiness and this deviousness into them, that they're carrying around like a sack of 50-pound luggage on them all the time. And now they feel like we're against them. They're against us because they don't want us to know the real them. Brother, let me tell you something. We're okay with the real you as long as we get to know you. Okay? As long as we can know you, as long as we can just know you, and it's my fault. I'm the dad. You're the dad. We're the parents. We're the leaders. Okay? If my business goes down, if I've got a bad culture in my business, it's my damn fault. I'm the one that's supposed to be in charge here. It ain't their fault for not selling enough or getting a bad review from a customer. It's my fault. I didn't do a good enough job coaching them, training them, teaching them. Same thing with our children, which is way more important than our employees. But kids, parents, all it is communicating and getting over ourselves. Okay? You are not perfect. You don't have the blueprint to perfection. None of us do. We didn't cut, like you said, the kids didn't pop out with it. It wasn't there. Okay. We're just following what was ingrained in us from 90% of us, the screwed up parents that we had, that were just trying to survive back in those days and trying to figure out what we can do now to fight all the battles that we're personally fighting and that our kids are fighting. But, instead of feeling like we're fighting against each other, kids, you don't have a bigger fan on the planet. Nobody cares for you ever like your parents do. Okay? If they're in your life still, if they're still in your life, if they're showing up, you don't have a better friend. Period. Okay? Because your other friends that you hang out with on the weekend, the other friends that you go and do things with to the game or down at the bars or whatever, I hate to tell you, they really don't want to see you win. They don't want to see you successful. They're not going to be celebrating your victories with you. And if someone is not going to be there to speak at your funeral, then why would we give them the power and the authority to speak in our lives? Your parents will be there for you. So I feel like that's something that everybody can take away and we can all improve upon.
Yeah, being a parent is not it's not an easy job. You think it's just automatic. I tell you one thing, and not only being a parent to your own kids, but for some reason I think in losing Caleb, I started reaching out to every kid.
You gained a tribe, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, my neighbors' kids, I began to take interest in them. And, some people are like, well, what can I do? Take interest in the kids in your cul-de-sac, on your street, because a lot of times they might not listen to their parents,
right.
For some, like every kid.
Yeah, teenagers. Parents are stupid.
But they're going to listen to the neighbor they've had for 25 years, the grumpy old neighbor they've had for 25 years, when you suddenly take an interest in them.
Yeah.
I had a niece call me one time, and I thought she was calling me. She was getting married, and she called me, and she said, "Uncle Matt," and I'm thinking, oh, she wants me to do a video for her wedding. She goes, "I want you to marry me." I was like, well, I'm not qualified to do this. I'm not ordained. She goes, "You can do that online. You're going to be great." And wow. I was like, oh, no, this is not a good idea,
Yeah.
This is not going to, And so it's my niece Tiffany. She'll get a kick out of it. But she had so much confidence in me that I could do it. And she'd seen me speak. She's like, "You're going to be fine. You're going to do great." And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do great. But in doing her wedding, and there's a lot of funny stories. The night before, I'm reading what I'm going to say, at the wedding. And my own family, my wife and my kids are like, "Give me that paper." And they're crossing stuff out. I was like, by the time I was going to do the wedding, oh my gosh, it was terrible. But it turned out great. And I was gracious to be a part of it and to be used by God. And then I think I've done 6 or 7 since.
Cool. Yeah.
Which has been amazing. And the wonderful thing about it is that I've gotten to get to know these young people, and they just become a part of your life at that point. Like they are a part of your life. Like you got to be there when they made one of the greatest decisions in their life, and you got to sit down across the table from them, ask them why they loved each other, what do they hate about each other, what do they love about each other, why did you pick him, why did she pick you, that kind of stuff. And, I think especially at our age, we've been through some stuff, we've been down some roads that we never should have went down. I've been down plenty of those.
Amen.
I know what they smell like. I know what they taste like. I know what I feel like afterwards, and it's like, I think we should have almost a little bit of a desperation of like sharing that information and saying, "I'm telling you, man, don't go down this road. It's going to lead to heartache, disappointment." That's why, Micah probably chose better friends. He's my youngest. He probably chose better friends than Caleb did. Caleb took in everybody, and Micah had a select group of guys that he hung out with from the time he was in elementary school. There's about 7 or 8 of them. Yeah. And they held each other accountable and stuff like that. And friends are super, especially when you're younger, they're super important. They're super important when you're older. There are certain men that I like. I go to, a Bible study on Saturdays at the Bentwater golf club, the club there, and we meet at 7:30 in the morning. And like, man, I can't wait to get there.
Mm.
You know, because these are guys that I trust. And a lot of times it's not about, I mean, we'll talk about politics, we'll talk about sports, but at some point Robbie will open up the Bible and he's like, let's take some time. We need to take some time. Let's hear what God's saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's amazing, you know, and then you get people that just open up about stuff they're going through.
Yeah.
And then the beauty of being able to be trusted by somebody to allow them to share that information with you, and then for you to be able to pray for them, not just that Saturday, but then to contact them later on that week and say, hey, I'm praying for you, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm here.
Yeah. I got you.
Yeah. And I tell you one thing, I have found, you know, great comfort in that. You know, I've in the last few years, man, I've gained some friends. Like God has just like put people in my life that I didn't deserve.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was going through a real tough time a couple summers ago. And I'd never struggled with depression, anxiety, man. I was the kind of guy, put your nose to the grindstone, doesn't matter, you know. And for some reason I was in a funk.
Yeah.
And something wasn't right, and I wasn't sleeping at night, and Rhonda had suffered, you know, with some depression after she had Mackenzie, and she picked up on it right away. She knew exactly what was wrong with me, and I was like, "Are you sure?" She goes, "Oh boy, you know, you shouldn't.
She knows what it looks like.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, she knew what it looked like,
and it was all over my face, and like I was struggling and doing some things that like came easy for me in work. And I remember I was going to church that Sunday to direct. I direct Church of the Apostles there. I've directed their television program for about, I don't know, 12 or 15 years. Been a complete honor and privilege to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I walk in there, Red, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, this is something I can do and be deathly sick.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
you do it with your eyes closed.
Yeah. I'm in a headspace that I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Completely handicapped.
Yeah. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And so I'm literally, you know, like any athlete, I am trying to push myself through this thing. And so we go downstairs because I would show up an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours before the service, and I would listen to the worship team go through their songs, and that way I could get a feel of like, you know, hey, this is how I'm going to cut this show today, take notes and that kind of thing. And so we go downstairs and we have a little time where I'm just with them and you know, we'll talk a little bit and then we'll pray. And oh, dude, I was such a mess. And Amy, one of the singers, was praying. They've all become great friends. I mean, these people are like godsends.
Yeah.
Seth, Amy, Mac Powell, Daniel, you know, John. I mean, just all of them have just been, you know, just amazing. And Jeremy's like, it's unbelievable. So Amy starts praying and she goes, there's somebody in this room that is suffering right now. Dude, I just wanted to lay on the ground. I'm like,
yeah.
And she's like, God's going to make a way for you today. And I was like, I was in such a bad place. I was like, oh, that's me. Don't even think about taking this ticket. This is my ticket. You know?
Stand up, get in the front of the line.
So I go out of there. I don't say anything to Amy, you know, and I've become, at that point, I'd been working with them for a little over a year and a half. I'd become very close with them, shared stuff with them. Yeah. And so I direct, and as soon as I get in my car, I call this buddy of mine because I was working on this project for ABC. And I called Brett Langfels. I said, man, dude, I'm struggling on this project. Can you help me out? He goes, dude, I'd do anything for you. So I'm like, I mean, all of a sudden, the burden of this project is starting to lift off me.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, basically, they had not given me any resources. They hadn't given me, you know, you can't use, it's one of these things. You can't use that. You can't do this. You can't do that. I said, well, what can I do? And they're like, well, that's why we came to you.
Okay.
And so normally that was not a problem. That's what I always do. That's kind of my thing. But for some reason, this was a time where I was really being tested.
Yeah.
And so I'm talking to Brett. Church of the Apostles is off, West Paces Ferry right there. And
Little drive.
Yeah. So I'm driving. By the time I get to Barrett Parkway, I see the Home Depot over there. I've been to it maybe twice in 30 years. I'm like, Rhonda wanted me to get some paint. So I'm like, I'm going to jet into here. I'm still talking to Brett. We're just talking. I'm telling him about the project. He's giving me ideas and stuff like that. And so I go into Home Depot and I'm like, hang on a second, man. I gotta ask this paint guy about some paint. He's like, where are you? I said, I'm at the Home Depot in Barrett Parkway, on Barrett Parkway. He goes, guess where I am? I've been in the parking lot the whole time we've been talking.
What?
Yeah. He came in and he just hugged me. And now you got to realize he has no idea what I'm going through.
Yeah,
I didn't tell him. We're very close friends. This is the guy I've won probably out of the 8 Emmys. I've probably won 6 with him.
Wow.
I mean, we're a really good team.
Tight. Yeah.
And that was, I thought that was, I'm like, this is so much God. I'm like that night I slept. Like I was waking up at 2, 4, 6.
No peace. You have no peace.
None whatsoever.
None. Yeah.
And so we get in there. I set all the equipment up. I had extra equipment so he could just walk right in. And he sits down. He says, brother, before we get started, he goes, I just want to do something. Can I pray for you? I was like.
Had he ever done that before?
Yeah, he was. I mean,
okay.
He was a believer.
You knew he was a Christian. Yeah,
but him and I had worked on a million other projects.
Yeah.
We had never really maybe once in a while we'd pray together on something, But he was like, do you mind if I pray for you? I want to pray for you this morning.
Bruh.
I was like, seriously, dude? He was like, yeah. And he has no idea. Like I'm holding back the tears. I'm just trying to, keep myself and just enjoy what God's doing, and basically letting God hug me at this time. And his son called me the other day and said, I'm doing a paper on my dad. Can you tell me something about my dad? I was like, oh yeah, I got a story I can tell about your dad. This is who your dad is. This is the man he is.
Yes.
That he was led by the Holy Spirit to pray for his friend when he didn't know what was going on in his friend.
Yeah.
And so being a man is more than just being tough. It's being sensitive to the Holy Spirit. You know what I'm saying? And Brett was sensitive to what God was doing in me at that time, but he didn't have to know all the information. Later I told him how it was hell, It's like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, dude, I just wanted to get the project done. I just wanted us, because I knew once we started working together that it was going to be a blast and he was going to be so much fun to work. He's so creative and so much fun to work with.
Well, it was still yours. You hadn't come off of you yet. The wing, it started to come off, but the wings hadn't started to flap all the way and flown away because you were still holding on to whatever that was causing you that depression and, that burden that you were under right there. And it sounds to me like one of the things that you're saying, and I'm, the older I get, I believe this to be true, is that, we're best called to be able to help the people who we once were, those that we once were. And as men, we are supposed to be this tough face, this stern, position, never cry, never show weakness, never, have those types of emotions. But what I'm seeing is that through vulnerability, okay, through a willingness to understand that, that I do have crap, okay? I am dealing with stuff, I experienced depression personally, okay? I set such a high standard of myself for my own performance and achievement, and I'll never get there. And so, I'm constantly letting myself down. And so I'll go through these little dips and like you dummy, instead of telling myself that I am worthy, I am enough, I am capable, I am chosen, I am a child of the Most High God. And, it's how we talk to ourselves and the things that we say to ourselves that enable us to be empowered to achieve, to accomplish, to go on, versus listening to the negative talk, listening to the to the devil, to the enemy, who's coming to steal, kill, and destroy us, who tells us that we're not enough, that we're a piece of crap, that we should have never done that. No good person does that. You're bad. You're awful. You're terrible. You're ugly. You're fat. All the things. So what we got to do is we got to quit listening to what we're telling ourselves and learn to tell ourselves what God wants us to hear. And
which is not easy though.
No.
Because you are. I mean, that's the one thing I learned during all this. Like, I'm fighting myself right now.
Yeah.
I'm fighting my own brain. And I think at that point I began to realize, I'm not a big reader. Just never have been, was never a kid that could comprehend. I had to study a lot harder than everybody else. If it came to anything visual, I was like, I could sprint.
Yeah.
But if I was reading, it was going to be like I was going to most likely fall asleep. But I have had to find myself in the Word, because that is the only thing that's saving me from this deception, from all those things that you said. All those things were just running through my mind. Like you said, you're not worthy, you're no good, you're gonna fail, they're gonna fire you. I mean, it's just like, and if you were to ask those people if they were going to do any of those things, they'd be like, "Why? Are you out of your mind?"
What? That guy? No.
Yeah. But it's amazing how the enemy, Jesus made it pretty plain, a couple things. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Those are very harsh words.
Think about
death.
It. Yes.
I mean, basically be done with you,
Yep.
And then the other thing is, and I think we're gonna see more of it and more of it in the coming days, where, he talked about, you don't fight against flesh and blood, but against, spirits and principalities and powers, things that you can't see.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to be honest with you, it's so important for women have done a much better job of praying than we have.
Oh yeah.
But men need to start seeking God and start praying and start covering their families from these unseen, these spiritual battles that are taking place. It's important all around us. It's so important for, some people think you're crazy. Some people think you're crazy. I'm like, no, man, get the anointing oil. Let's start putting on all the doorposts. I don't want anything inside this house.
Call it out. Let's go.
I mean, it's like, what would you do to protect your family?
There's nothing I wouldn't. There's nothing you wouldn't do.
Yeah. And some people are like, that sounds like hocus pocus. No, I'm making a declaration to the enemy that when it comes to this house, he can't go beyond.
You're not welcome here.
Yeah.
This ain't your place, brother. Just get to stepping. Get out. Yeah. You got to go. Man, first and foremost, dude, I love you, man. You're a great person. And there were so many things that I wanted to talk about today, but like you said, this show took on its own path, and I'm very proud of it. And what I believe that you have communicated to folks who are listening to this today is how to take pain, the most devastating pain that there is in life, and turn it into purpose. And you still, I promise you still hit your knee sometimes and feel that pain, okay? I know Rhonda does, okay? I can still see something on TV or hear a song or just grab a thought, man, it crushes me about losing my mother, and it's almost been 20-something years, And so the grief and the loss is there, and listen, what we all have to understand is that we're going to suffer loss in life. We're going to lose the people we love, and it's gonna mark time when it comes with tragedy. But I think the lessons that Matt has communicated to us today is that through prayer, through vulnerability, and through a willingness to just continue to get back up and go again and seek to give to other people, and seek men to come in and pour into you and be able, and you give trust to them that you're able to sustain and maintain your peace, recapture your peace, recapture your joy, through your grief, through your suffering, and to be able to go on and live a life of fulfillment, which I'm convinced, brother, that you're doing right now.
I'm trying. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a walk.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a daily walk, and it's a, if you want a challenge in life, give your life to the Lord.
Mm.
It will be a challenge.
Yep.
And the fact that you, you trust him. I serve him. He is my king.
Yes.
And I think maybe in the last year or two, that's becoming more of a reality. Jesus has always been the friend, the savior, and he is all those things, the healer,
Yeah.
I mean, he is all those things, but I think for me, and he's becoming the king, and hearing the king's voice, and obeying his voice, and being sensitive, to the Holy Spirit, and knowing what's going on around me.
Yeah, yeah.
People, everything. I remember this. Can I tell one more little story?
Yeah.
So Rhonda had these ideas where, she loves to give to people. And so she's like, we were in the grocery store. She goes, we're gonna buy somebody's groceries today.
Love it.
And I was like, okay, and I'm more like, okay, let's get the groceries, let's get going, and she's already picking up on something. And I'm looking at her. I'm like, why do you got that look on your face?
Those antennas are up.
Yeah. She's like, they're the ones right there. I was like, and you know how as a husband, sometimes you're like, okay, whatever.
Really?
I'll roll with this.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she hands me the card, she's like, hey, pay for the groceries. I'm like, oh, so I go over there, and the lady's
Not easy to do.
no, I just swiped the card. I swiped the card right through when the total came up. I just swiped it, and I said, it's on us today, guys. And we just walked away. We didn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
We just walked away. And so we walk away. I have a buddy of mine who's Paul's a couple people behind them. And when we were Ron and I were walking out, I was like, oh, that was so stupid. I should have given him some cash too, And so Paul calls me and says, hey, you put the wrong pin in. I had to put a pen in too. And Ron had told me the pen number, and I put the wrong pen number trying to, quickly do it. So I had to go back in. And so I put the pen number in, and then was able to give them the cash.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we walked out.
It was on you.
Yeah, we walked out. And when we were walking to the car, there was a young girl and her grandmother. And the girl ran to Rhonda. And she doesn't even know her. She just grabbed Rhonda and just, in the tightest way, just hugged her and just began to sob, sob in Rhonda's chest. And I'm just sitting there watching. I'm just like going, you're a small act of kindness. And all of a sudden, you're a part of God's plan.
Mm.
And that girl was just so thankful and wouldn't let go of Rhonda. And one other little quick one, we were, my son had just had his daughter Haven, and Micah said, hey, can you come to the hospital, get some of our stuff? It's going to be too much for us to take back. We leave tomorrow, so if you guys could come today. So we went there. So Rhonda and I are lugging all this stuff, out of the hospital, and we're getting ready to get in this elevator. The elevator's about to close, and we pop in there, and this girl is crying. She's bawling her eyes out. And this other lady has got her hands, laying on her hands on her, and is praying for her. And I was like, oh, well, we just started joining in with her.
Yeah,
We're just like, in the name of Jesus, right now, whatever she's going, and this lady is just like, it's just coming out of her. She's just praying over this lady.
Yeah, yeah.
And and the elevator's just going up and down, dude.
Yeah, it was. It was just a part of the show. Yeah,
it's
that
just
was
going
it. Yeah.
up and down, and finally, the girl, she finished the prayer, and this girl, before there was terror all over her face.
Yeah.
And now she has nothing but peace on her face, and she walks out of this elevator and just says, "Thank you." And I was like, well, just another miracle. Here's just another miracle, you know? And so we walk out of the elevator, and the lady is ahead of us that was praying, and Rhonda's like, something's not right. Something's going on with her. She's starting to cry, and Rhonda says, you know, "Hey, what's going on with you? Are you okay?" And
it's the lady that was praying.
Lady that was like, I mean, powerful prayer.
Yeah.
Not just, you know, now I'll lay me down to sleep. Oh, she was spitting it.
Yeah.
And she said, "I lost my granddaughter, 3 years old, a couple weeks ago, and I'm struggling finding out who he is." I'm like, my God, did you just not hear yourself praying there? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't know if I've ever felt an anointing like that.
Yeah,
you
that
know,
wasn't a struggle.
No, and so we had it was just another. It's just these God moments.
Yeah.
That if you'll open yourself up,
Yes.
you know, and Rhonda does a much better job of it because she'll say it. She'll be like, "Something's going to happen today." I'm like, okay. But now when she says it, I'm like, I start looking around.
Yeah, your head's on a swivel.
Yeah. Like something is going to happen today. She's
Yeah.
expecting it. And I'm telling you, if you give yourself an opportunity to be open to what God's, because what you are, in some ways, you're an agent of His.
Yes. He uses us. He doesn't, you know, he's not sending angels down here flying around with a bow and arrow shooting us to make everything okay. We're his agents. And, you know, through us he's able to effectuate his miracles, his change, his divine plan, and for us to reach our divine destiny. So, man, this is so cool. What you've done today is some really high level stuff, some real high level giving, and that's what I want everybody to be able to take from today, is that if you allow yourself to give, to be a vessel for goodness, for change, then and just become available. You don't have to be the qualified. You just got to be available.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus picked 12 unqualified people that had already been rejected by the Pharisees and Sadducees. And those 12 people turned the world upside down.
Yes, they did.
The world was never the same after them.
Yep.
And so he's not looking for the qualified. I mean, he picked Paul. Paul was qualified.
Okay.
He definitely was qualified, you know. But if you follow Paul's story, he went from a very arrogant man to maybe one of the most humble men. Mm-hmm. Saying, you know, at first he was pretty hard on the disciples. And then towards the end, he's like, I couldn't even walk in their sandals, these men, you know. And so, yeah, just being used by him. And the wonderful thing about all this is that I get to share it with you.
Yes.
Like, I get to share these experiences with you or somebody else who doesn't believe in God. The wonderful thing about a testimony is that you can't call me a liar. I can tell you the story.
Firsthand account.
Yeah.
Personal.
And if you need other people that have been there, I can tell you about them.
Yeah.
And they can verify it for me.
Irrefutable.
Yeah. But the fact is when anytime you talk about Jesus, is that he shows up. I'm not the Savior. He is. He just, if he so happens to use me for something to happen, then that's great. But I know it's nothing I've done. It's him.
Yeah. Amen. Dude, this has been awesome. I just want to thank you so much for being here today, for being willing to be authentic, and to share the deepest, darkest parts of your story. And I know that there are going to be so many people who are able to gain so much goodness out of this, that this is going to make an impact. People are going to have to go back and rewind this and watch it again and listen to it again to make sure that they catch the goodness that came out of Matt Lucas today, man. Love you, brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for even having me today, because it has been a prayer that I would be able to make it through something like this without.
You did awesome.
Without just crying the whole time, because it is definitely a struggle.
You're great. Thanks a lot. Okay. And that's Red Taylor from the Red Hot Read.